Welcome to this video. In this video, I will be trying to discuss on various statistical tools that can be used for visualizing the data. Okay, the tools for visualizing the data. And these tools help you in identifying the variability in the distribution of the data, how the data is distributed, what sort of a distribution, some sort of a visual feeling you will get from these tools, and these are very effective tools for starting your statistics course. Okay, so I will start with a very simple plot, a simple diagram, or a simplest tool, which is the stem and the leaf display. So for plotting a stem and leaf display, I require some data points and I need some observations. In this case, I got these observations, something like age of employees. Okay, so age of employees in a particular organization might be, and these are the observations: 36, 25, 38, 46, 55, 68, 72, 55, 36, 38, 67, 45, 22, 48, 91, 46, 52, 61, 58, 55. So first you have to see how many observations are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 into 3, 18 plus 2, 20 observations are there. So the number of observations is 20. Okay. This we can call it as the sample size also. Okay, sample size. N. That's for sample size. Typically we use a letter N, and N is equal to 20 in this case. Now you can make the stem and leaf plot. For making the stem and leaf plot, first what you have to do is choose a number and split the number into two halves. One half comes under the stem and the other half comes under the leaf. For example, if you see 36, you split the 36 is a two-digit number. You split it into two. The first digit or the digit in the tens place comes under the stem, and the 6, which is the second digit in this particular case, comes under the leaf. So you keep on splitting these numbers into two halves. The first digit comes under the stem and the second digit comes under the leaf. Another thing what you can do is that you can actually do a sorting. So you arrange it in an increasing order, ascending order, or descending order, or sun order, so that you can actually have a more visual display, or more easy way of seeing the distribution. Okay. So this is something which you can always do. For this you can always use softwares like even simply your Excel sheet, and sort it, give a sort command, it gets sorted out, and then you can actually make the stem and leaf display. In fact, you can actually directly plot the stem and leaf display in an Excel sheet, or if you really want to use some of the statistical software, for example Minitab, you can always try it out. Okay. So now I am going to do this manually here. So first I have to divide this into stem and then leaf. And the first number is 36, but before that I will put 25, because 25 is a smaller number than 36. And 2, that what I have done is that I have split into two. The first digit comes under the stem and the second digit comes under the leaf. Same way you can do it for might be for a 3-digit number. For a 3-digit number, you can either choose the first 2 digit as the stem and the last digit as the leaf, or you could choose the first digit as the stem and the last 2 digit as the leaf. Typically what you do is that you choose only one digit under the leaf, otherwise it leads to confusion. Okay, so then you see 36, so it is 36, and so on. So 38 is 38, and 46 is 4 and 6. 4 comes under the stem and 6 comes under the leaf. 55, 55, 68, 68, 72 is 72, 55 is 55. So now you need not have to repeat 5 again, because already I have mentioned 5 under the stem, so 55. 36 is 36, 38, 67, 45, so this comes like this, 22, 48, 91, so okay, 91, 46, where is 46, 52 again, 61, 58 and 55. So you see, so this is now what we call it as the stem and the leaf plot. So this all comes under the stem and this comes under the leaf, and this gives you the distribution. For example, you can see from here the most of the data points are lying in this regime, right? It lies somewhere here, and you can also identify that the frequency corresponding to the 50s is higher. For example, you can also have a separate column for frequency. Frequency is the count, number of times it is there. Those observations are there. For example, in this case the frequency is 2, 1 and 2, 2, and this is 4, 4, 5, 3, 1, 0, 8. There is no frequency, so corresponding to 8 there is nothing is there, and again 1. Okay. So you can see that the maximum frequency is for the 50s. So the most of the not the most, I cannot say like that, but the maximum maximum number of the employees are in the age range 50 to 59, for example. So this type of a visual feel you get from a stem and leaf plot, and it's an easy plot to make always. And another interesting fact is that the individual data is also conserved. For example, I can see here that the 55 is being repeated. I can identify here. Now the difference you will get more, or you will get a more clarity of the difference, or more parity of this by looking into a histogram. So I will, when we discuss about histogram, I think you will get a better clarity. But what I mean to say here is that in the stem and leaf plot, the individual observations are conserved, okay, are preserved there. Okay. So now we will go to the histogram, which is another common way of making the statistical description or representing a statistical data. I will use the same data here. Okay, so the same data for plotting the histogram also. In histogram, what you need is that instead of stem and leaf, you have the bins and the frequency. Okay, so you have to first identify the bins. Bins are nothing but a range of values, okay, and the frequency is the number of times these observations which are observations come or fall within that range or fall within that bin. Okay, so if you see here, so I can choose bins like this one. Okay, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50 to 59, 60 to 69, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, 90 to 99. You can choose the bin depending upon the observations. You can also choose a bin of the smaller size, for example bin width. What I mean by bin width is the difference between the maximum and the minimum. And you can also choose, for example, you can choose a bin width of 20 to 24 and 25 to 29 and so on. So the number of bins increases. Is quite arbitrary. You can choose the bin width and so on. But you choose a bin width that gives you the better distribution or better visual display of what you want to see. Okay, so here I am choosing a bin width of 20 to something like 9 units or 10 units. So that is what I am choosing here. And the corresponding frequency I already noted down here. The frequency is 244-53101. Okay, 244-53101. So this is the number of times the values lies in this bin. In this particular case, there are two observations are lying within this bin, 4 observations are lying within this bin, and so on. Okay, so that is what actually it means. Now you can make the plot. I will make the plot here itself. So it's like a chart, okay, which has got an x-axis and a y-axis, and the y-axis is nothing but your frequency, and your x-axis is these bins. Okay, the bins is typically of same width. Okay, the bins are of equal width. In histograms, typically this is one condition which we follow. The bins are of equal width. So in this case it's 20 to 29 and 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50 to 59, 60 to 69, okay, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, okay, this 90 to 99. So these are the bins, and the frequency will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think the maximum number is 5, so you need only up to 4. So now you have to make the bars. So 20 to 29 is 2 units, so it's something like this. So this is your 20 to 29, and 30 to 39 is 4 units, so like something like this. Okay, so that is 30 to 39. Maybe I will use some other color for 40. 40 to 49 is 4 units, again same. You can choose all these colors in an Excel, different colors you can choose for different bins. 50 to 59, all this can be automated in an Excel. 50 to 59 is 5, okay, so this is where, so you can see that this one is the tallest among all these, so this is having the maximum frequency. And 60 to 69 is 3 units, maybe so 60 to 69 3, and 70 to 79 is 1 unit, here is 1, and 90 to 99, 80 to 89 there is nothing is there, 90 to 99 again another 1 unit. Okay. So this is a histogram. It's very simple. So the good thing about histogram is that it gives you much more a visual feel. So you can see here how the distribution looks, at least qualitatively how the distribution looks. It doesn't look like a typical normal distribution. It is somewhat skewed towards the left. It has that sort of a feeling. Its median value or the central tendency, we will see what is median and mean and so on, is somewhere distributed here, for instance. And the spread about the mean value is not uniform. Okay, it's a spread. The spread is something which we call as the deviation from the mean value. That also you can see from here. Some sort of a qualitative understanding you will get. And another thing what you can see here is that there is one value which is lying outside this distribution, might be, which you can treat as an outlier depending upon your problem. In this case you can treat definitely as an outlier, because 90 to 99 the age of that employee is above 90, which is definitely an outlier. Might be he is a CEO or that something like that, he is the owner of that company or something like that. So he's still working in that company. So you can treat that as an outlier. So this type of an information you get. But what is the problem with the histogram, or what is the limitation of this histogram, is that you are not able to sense or the individual, the data corresponding to the individual observation is somewhat lost. For example, how many people are there with the age 55, I don't know from here. I cannot get that information from the histogram, because it is hidden somewhere here. It is hidden in this bin, but I don't know the details about what are the numbers there in this bin. I know only the frequency, but I don't know what are the individual values. But whereas when we go to stem and leaf plot, that is not the case. I can identify the values or the individual observation. So that is why I told that the data corresponding to individual observation is conserved in the stem and leaf plot, which is not the case in the case of a histogram. Okay, so the histogram is a very useful technique. It gives you an understanding of the spread of the distribution. It tells you the what type of distribution, not what type. It gives you a qualitative feel of the shape of the distribution. Okay, and it also gives you where your central tendency or the mean or the median lies. Okay, so all these informations you get from the histogram. Okay, so this is the second tool which we have seen. The first tool is the stem and the leaf plot. Okay, now what we are going to see is another important plot, which is the box plot. You can have several other visual display tools also, for example scatter diagrams, run plot, and so run charts and so on. So but we will see only three plots, three type of visual displays in this video. Okay, the box plot. So box plot corresponds to, okay, so before discussing about the box plot, I will talk about some of the statistical terms which are used. For example, mean. Okay, so the what is mean? Mean, or it is also called as the average value. Okay, and that is defined as the sum of the observations divided by the number of the samples. Okay, so that is how you define a mean. Okay, so the mean is defined as the sum of all the observations divided by the number of observations. I will choose another set of observations which is connected to some diameter of a pipe or something like that. Okay, so the diameter of the pipe is measured in mm. Okay, and the obtained values are given below: 120.1, 120.2. I am arranging it in the ascending order. When you actually do the measurement, it will be random. It will be in a randomized fashion. It will be in a randomized fashion, but what you have to do is that before plotting the box plot, you have to arrange it in a sequential manner. You have to arrange it either in the ascending order or descending order. This is important. Okay, so then only you can actually do the box plot. Okay, so I am plotting it on 20.5, and then on 20.6 is not there, on 20.5 repeated twice, on 20.7, on 20.8, on 20.9, on 21.1, on 21.3. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. I missed some number. Okay, 120.9 is repeating. 120.9 and 121. Okay, so the number of observations here, so the number of samples here is actually 12. So as I told, for samples we usually use the letter n. N stands for the number of samples, and in this case 12. And you have to find out what is the total here. So the total is you have to take the sum of all these individual observations and then divide it by 12, then you get the mean. And for the mean, normally the symbol used is x with a bar on top of that, which means actually the mean. And in this case, when you do the calculation, it comes out to be around 120.6 something, 645 or something like that. Okay. So this is the mean, 120.64. But here one point you have to note here is that I have written this mean in terms of two decimal or two numbers after the decimal point. But whereas if you see all the observations are limited to one decimal digit. So which means that when I did the calculation using some calculator, I divided it by some number, in this case 12, and I got some mean. But this way of representing is not correct, because you cannot have an accuracy greater than that of the accuracy of your measurement. So that is an important point to remember, which is often forgotten. The point is you cannot have an accuracy greater than this one, so you should not use or the number of significant figures should not exceed what is being mentioned in the observation. So in this case, there is only one significant digit, so you should limit your discussion or limit your result mean to mean, or even standard deviation or variance, whatever you represent, it should be also of the same level of accuracy. So it is 120.6 mm. Okay, so that is the mean. Similarly, you can calculate other statistical values, for example, median. So this is something which is important from the box plot point of view. Median is what is median? Median is something which actually divides these observations into two equal halves. Now the number of observations is 12 and it is even number, and when you have an even number, finding out the exact middle is a little bit tricky. So what you have to do is that, what is the middle number? In this case it is sixth observation. So 1 2 3 4 5 6, but if I choose 6, it is not actually splitting it into two equal halves, right? Because there are only 5 observations before that and 6 observations after that, 1 2 3 4 5 6. So it is not exactly the case, exactly the middle value. So what you have to do is that, especially in case of even number of observations, you have to take the average of the two values which are lying in the middle, two observations. For example, in this case the 120.5 and 120.7, so you have to take the average value. So the median is 125 plus 127 by 2, and that is 126. Okay, so 126 is not an observation which is available here from the measurement, but okay, sorry, it is 120.5. I have written wrong. Okay, so it is 120.5 plus 120.7 divided by 2. So this is 120.6, and 120.6 is not available, but that is the median here, because it's an even number of observations. If it was an odd number of observation, it would not have created any problem. For example, if I had one more number, 121.4 for instance, in that case the number of observations is, number of samples is 13, and you could have 120.7 and this number which is lying exactly at the middle, because you can have 6 numbers to the left and 6 numbers to the right, and therefore there is no problem as such. So so in case of even numbers, you may have to take the average of the two numbers which are lying at the middle, especially if you want to determine what is the median. Another commonly used statistical statistic or another statistical measurement is the mode, and the mode is something which or is the one where the frequency is the highest. Among the various observations, the one observation with the highest frequency is the mode, and in this case I think there are two such numbers. For example, 120.5 is repeated twice and 120.9 is also repeated twice. So okay, so there is two numbers, 120.5 and 120.9. So if you draw a histogram, you can see that there can be two peaks coming up. Okay, so this is something like a bimodal case. So there are two modes. So it is not necessary that your data points corresponds to a single mode only, but there can be two modes also. Okay, so this is a special case where you have two modes. Okay, so that is another interesting thing. But among all these different concepts, the mean is something which is commonly used. We will see again and again. And for box plot, you need a median. Okay. There are some other terms are also used. For example, the median is sometimes called as the Q2. Okay, second quartile. It is called as second quartile. Okay, it is related to percentile. It's not percentage. It's percentile. So second quartile is something like 50th middle percent, 50th percentile. If you arrange it in the 50th percentile among the observations, if you arrange the observation in the ascending order or in the descending order. Now you can have the quartile 1, Q1. Okay, so this is something called as the quartile 1. So that corresponds to the first half. Okay, so if you see these observations, the first half is the first 6 numbers, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6. So this is the first half, 1 2 3 4 5 6. So among the first half, which is lying at the middle, so again is an even number 6. So you need to take the average among these two. Okay, so to get the median, get the first quartile. So the average is 120. 120.3 plus 120.4 divided by 2, and this turns out to be 120.35. And here the quartiles, you can actually have a value more than in case you can have a significant digit more than that, more than what is being mentioned, which is not going to create a problem in case of quartiles. But means, when you represent mean, which is through measurement, you do not normally represent means with a higher accuracy than that of what is actually measured in an observation. Okay, similarly, you can have a third quartile also, Q3, which corresponds to the bottom half. This corresponds to the top half. What is lying in the middle is actually the Q1, and from the bottom half, what is lying in the middle will be the Q3. So the bottom half is the remaining 6 digits. 1, 2, I will remove the 13th observation. So we have only 12 observations. We are thinking about or we are considering a system having only 12 observations. So the bottom half corresponds to 6 observations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so Q3 is nothing but 120, these two observations, average of these two observations, and in this case it's both 120.9, so the average is also 120.9. So this is your Q3. And you can also find what is called as the interquartile range. And that is denoted, abbreviated as IQR, and this is nothing but Q3 minus Q1, and in this case it is 120.9 minus 120.35. You can find out what is the interquartile range. I have to do it. 120.9 minus 120.35, and that is point. Okay, so this is the interquartile range. You can also determine something called as a range. Okay, the total range. The range is defined as the maximum minus minimum. The maximum value for the observation, and the minimum value for the observation. And in this case, the maximum is 121.3 and the minimum is 120.1. So it is 121.3 minus 120.1. So it is 1.2. This is the range, total range. And the range gives you an indication of the spread. And there are other ways of measuring the spread also. For example, variance and standard deviation and so on, which may be more accurate way of measuring the range, measuring the spread. But the range is a very effective tool, effective means of measuring the spread. Okay. And median and mean is something which you can use for measuring the central tendency. So this gives you a measure of the central tendency. Median and the mean gives you a measure of the central tendency, whereas the range gives you a measure of the spread or the scatter of the distribution. Okay, or the variability in the distribution. So, and we are too much concerned about variability in this course. Sorry. Okay, now coming to the box plot. So the box plot, if you look at the box plot, it looks like a box, and the box plot can be plotted either vertically or horizontally. Now I am going to show it in a horizontal way. So you have a box, and the extreme ends corresponds to the quartiles. Okay, so the Q1 and the Q3. Okay, so the Q1 we got it, the Q1 is 120.35. So this is 120.35. And Q3 is 120.9. And you will have one more line, vertical line here, that is nothing but which is lying in between Q1 and Q3, and that is quite logically understandable. That is nothing but the mean, right? Okay, so that is, or it is also called as the Q2, and in this case the Q2 is 120.6. Okay, so 120.6. Okay, so the Q2 is not exactly at the middle, it is slightly tilted towards the left, towards the first quartile. Okay, since it's closer to 0.35 than 0.9, that is one observation we can make. From this also you can calculate the interquartile range and so on. And then in a box plot you typically see whiskers. Okay, so whiskers means lines which are protruding out from this box. So there are two lines, one to the left of the first quartile and to the right of the third quartile, and these are the two lines, and normally these are drawn to scale, okay, some scale. And what are these whiskers? The whiskers corresponds to the minimum and the maximum. The minimum is 120.1 and the maximum is 121.3, and the maximum is 121.3. And the length of this whisker is larger than this one because the difference is more than okay, 0.4 here, and it's more or less the same. I have to see. 0.25 and this is 0.4, 121.3 minus 120.9 is 0.4. So this whisker is more having more length when compared to that of this whisker. Okay, so whiskers, and typically in the softwares, if you are using for example Minitab and so on, the whisker length is restricted. You cannot have a whisker length more than 1.5 times the interquartile range. And we have calculated what is interquartile range, which is nothing but Q3 minus Q1, this difference, 120.9 minus 120.35, and that is 0.55. So in that case it will be 1.5 into 0.55. I will just do what it is, 1.5 into 0.55, and it is 0.825. So you can have a maximum whisker length of 0.2825 on either side. In this case it is lying within that, so there is no problem. But in some cases your data point might be lying outside the whisker. For example, if you imagine that something like I have 124 as one observation, so in that case this 124 will be lying outside. You can draw the whisker up to here, but the softwares will not allow you because it is they have put a limit to the interquartile to the whisker length, and that limit is 1.5 interquartile range. So this helps you to identify what is the outlier. Okay, so this can be considered as an outlier. So anything lying beyond this 1.5 interquartile range is considered as outlier. So any observation which is lying outside this interquartile range is considered as an outlier. So this is all about the box plot. Again, from the box plot you get an idea about the spread of the distribution, right? You get an idea about the spread of the distribution. You can see where is the central tendency lying, and identify the outliers. So all these can be done with the help of box plot also. So the box plot is another beautiful way of looking into the or visually representing the data. Okay. So with this we will stop here, and we will have a discussion on various distributions maybe in the next video. Thank you.